Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about how to make $5,000 a month with the AMDY YieldMax ETF, which is based on AMD. Let's get it. So the first thing I want to bring up here, guys, as you guys can see on the share price chart, this thing just recently had an absolute monster rip to the upside. And Coinbase was pretty much the other one that did this, but as you guys can see, we are up a total of about 16% from the lows. That would be from the wick lows. If we go from the candle lows here, you guys can see that we're still up a massive 13%. So let's go find out what's going on with the price here real quick before we get into the actual dividend piece. Let's scroll down here and find AMD. Oh, it doesn't look like I actually have it added here, so I'm going to have to add that to the watch list at some point. So all right, so we got advanced micro strategies. If you guys are wondering what this underlying stock is, if you're invested in AMDY, it would be good to know what the underlying is. Basically, it's a semiconductor company, is pretty much in short what it is. So, semiconductors kind of run the world. They're used in vehicles, they're used in computers, they're used in, robot technology, AI. The list could go on and on and on. You got, gaming chips and servers and you name it. Pretty much everything that's technologically linked has some kind of semiconductor chip in it. So as you guys can see here on the chart, we have pretty much been moving up ever since we broke this downtrend right here. Change the color green so you guys actually know that it's bullish. So basically, with that being said, you pretty much would flip it from a break of the downtrend to holding an uptrend is pretty much how we would do this. So as you guys can see, we've been trending up this whole time. But on a week over week basis, you guys can see here that we're basically up on AMD, which is the underlying, not the actual YieldMax ETF, about 20%. So we're not up in the YieldMax ETF as much as AMDY, but think about that for a second. It's a 16% gain in 1 week. On AMDY, you went from like $17.80 a share all the way up to over $20. Absolutely insane. That just tells you guys the price appreciation potential of some of these funds. Now, another important point here, as you guys can see, we are still sitting above the break even on the MACD, and we are about ready to have another huge golden cross here on the weekly, which could be a fake out, but we'll just have to wait and see if it's not a fake out. Well, there's a lot of upside potential here for the price of AMD, which means a lot of upside potential for the price of AMDY. As you guys can see here, last time we had a golden cross on the weekly, we went from roughly about $60 a share to a peak of about 130, so that's a 2x. And as it currently sits right now from the golden cross here, if I can get the exact week here we go. So talking as much as about 87%. Now, if I scale down to the 4 hourly, you guys can see that we recently had an earnings on AMDY, or not AMDY, sorry, AMD. So as you guys can see, pretty green for many quarters now, with the exception of this one right here, which is odd because that was actually the start of the new bull run. But you can pretty much see that they haven't really missed too many quarters in terms of revenue over the last few years, but they had a slight beat on earnings, and they had a pretty decent beat, I would say, on revenue. So that could be the main reason why the price went up on AMDY. But again, we are in a macro bull trend. The reason this is important is because the YieldMax ETFs replicate the price action of the underlying stock. Okay, remember that if you guys are new to this channel, be sure to keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, so now let's talk about the numbers for the dividends and how you can get to $5,000 a month. There's 2 ways that you can get to this. Okay, number one, you could put in the initial investment right out of the gate, which would be about $94,000. Now, again, most people don't have $94,000 sitting around. Most people don't even have $1,000 sitting around. If you're extremely wealthy and you have, several $1,000,000 and, based on like a percentage of your net worth, you could afford to do this. If you wanted to, not financial advice, it'd be entirely up to you. You could put the money in immediately and get about $5,000 a month with this amount invested. assuming that the current payout, which is $1.11 a month, remain the same, which it may not. Okay, these things do fluctuate. So this is the first month on AMDY, but as you guys can see, Coney dropped from $1.20 to $1.07. And then you have things like this where DISA went up like 3x the previous month in terms of dividend payments. So it's pretty all over the place, but we're just going to assume hypothetically that the dividends remain roughly about the same. But even if it didn't, even if it got cut in half, let's say that, instead of getting $1.11 per share, you got like 55 cents per share, you're still going to make about $2,500 a month. So anyways, let's get into the numbers here. So you got the AMDY. It calls it a stock, but it's actually an ETF. Or I should say it's a single stock ETF. So it's kind of a combination of the two. Monthly distributions. You do want to theoretically reinvest the dividends. We'll start out with just one share. Okay, we're not going to start out with $1,000 invested this time. We'll just start out with one share, so you can see the power of compounding interest here. The current share price, which is $20.79. Let's just assume you put in $500 a month, hypothetically. There's your tax rate, which we'll actually bump that up and we'll say it's 22%. The initial annual dividend yield, 65.22%, as you guys can see right here. And a 0% increase, because again, these fluctuate. We don't know what they're going to be month to month. 3%. Well, we'll actually change this to 1% because I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that the YieldMax ETFs in a typical decade-long bear market could go up 1% per year. That's actually pretty conservative. And so we'll invest for 10 years and calculate the numbers. So as you guys can see here, at the start of year one, you have one share. So you get basically $13 a year in dividends. Okay, or about basically what it would be is a $1.12 per share per month. And then you're investing $500 a month. So by year two, you would have roughly about $350 a month, maybe $330 a month. Year three, you'd be at $800 a month. Year four, you would be at roughly about, I would say maybe $1,500, $1,600 a month. Year five, you would get to just over $3K a month. Year six here is where you would basically end up hitting the roughly about, before taxes, $5,000 a month of passive income. So as you guys can see here, this is just with $500 a month invested. Now, if we decided we wanted to be more aggressive, we could put in $1,000 a month. And so as you guys can see, the clock kind of rolled back a little bit. You're actually well over $5,000 a month at this point. By the end of year five, you'd be at roughly about $6,000 a month. Now, whether it gets to $1 million a month or not, well, I mean, that is pretty extreme, but there is people out there. I myself have seen people out there on YouTube that are making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month in passive income. So is it possible to make $100,000 a month in passive income? I would say yes. Warren Buffett does it. He probably makes way more than that, actually. He probably makes billions per year. But I have seen just an interesting note, not in terms of passive income, but in terms of like people who have their own businesses, like an Amazon FBA business or drop shipping or some other kind of business that they're involved in. And there are also some YouTubers that make this much, but some of these people that I've seen have been making like $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a month of income from their businesses. So if that's possible, I would say yes, these numbers are actually possible, but it would probably take quite a bit of time to get there. And again, the dividend is variable, so it's hard to say when you could get there, but if you can afford it, great. I mean, hats off to you, because most people, like 99% of people out there, can't. So we'll do one more. We'll say this time you want to invest $2,000 a month. As you guys can see, by year four, you would be well over 5K a month. At this point, you would be pushing roughly about, I would say, $7,000 a month, which is really a lot. I mean, if you're making $7,000 a month in passive income, you're really, really doing good. So anyways, this is the video on how to make $5,000 a month with AMDY ETF. Just goes to show just how powerful the compounding effect of these high yield ETFs can be. Again, we're not suggesting that anybody just invest into one ETF. Us personally, we have, I would say, probably roughly about 8 to 10 currently different YieldMax ETFs. So we have Tesla, we have AMDY, we have AMDY, we have GUI, we have OARC, and I'm trying to think of what the other one was. But we have a bunch of them. We also have JEPY, we have Triple QY, and a lot of other dividend paying stocks in our M1 Finance accounts. So just remember, diversification is key. Um, if I would say that if anybody was going to invest into one individual position, picking like an ETF or an index fund would be wise. Not financial advice, but at least if you bought just that one position, you would have access to the whole market. You wouldn't just be invested in one company. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts below, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.